So we have just a couple of weeks more for schools to reopen, and something major is going to happen in the educational system. For the first time in a long time, this new academic year for senior high schools will begin with a new curriculum. We're going to be assessing our preparedness for the new academic year, which is going to begin with this new curriculum. What parents need to know, what are the challenges, how the drafters of the new curriculum anticipate that it will be becoming that. Now, we know that the 1,000, as we speak, 152,000 teachers are currently undergoing training on the new curriculum that we know is going to be rolled out, the standard-based curriculum, which is going to be rolled out in the next academic year. And the teachers, we know, are studying this curriculum, and it is expected to address some of the fundamental inherent deficiencies in the current curriculum, which is why the teachers, as you can see, are engaging in the learning. The content overload, which is one of the key things that the existing curriculum has been identified as a challenge, is one of the things that the new one is going to address. And we have limitations of the objective-based curriculum as well, inability of the assessment system to provide sufficient data on which improvement in the teaching and learning could be fashioned. It's a key challenge as well. Plus, preparing learners to pass exam. It's simply what it does. It just prepares you to pass exam, not to become a useful member of society they can integrate into industry, etc. So, what have they done? They introduced a new curriculum. What does this do? The new curriculum emphasizes the acquisition of reading, writing, arithmetic, and creative skills, and also seeks to strengthen the teaching of mathematics. These are basic for any human development, really. But it's also in the way it promises to deliver on these subjects. We also have the reintroduction of history of Ghana and physical education and sports as an integral part of the program. This here is absolutely important for the upbringing and the growth of a child. Call it extracurricular activity. If you go anywhere in the world, there's a lot of focus on this because of its ability to develop a complete new being. But there have been challenges even in rolling this out, because NAGRA says their input was not really sought prior to the formulation of this new particular curriculum. They also has raised issues with the teachers having to suspend their vacation, which is important, to implement this new curriculum. It's a key thing that NAGRA has mentioned as well in this. And, well, pay attention to this snack here, because it became an issue. It became an issue because it trended on social media. Pictures emerged of the training that is happening across the country and what the GS is investing in that to make the training, worthwhile. Teachers were served food that, were demeaning, some have said. Now, per diem for those teachers have also been raised as an issue. It's a big question. So how prepared are we? We're just a couple of weeks to go for the new academic year. We have men who understand this. If you're a parent or you are even a pupil and you're wondering where you are when the academic year begins next 2 weeks, this is where you want to be. Stay with us. When we return, we'll get into the heated matters. You're live on PM Express. My guest in the studio is Dr. Prince Ama, who is the Executive Secretary, National Council for Curriculum and Assessment. Doc, thank you very much for joining me. Also with me is Angel Kabonu, President of the National Association of Graduate Teachers. So we joined via Skype shortly by Kofi Asari, who is the chairman, the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition. on this very important conversation about the new curriculum, assessing our preparedness. Let me start with you, Dr. Ama. Are we ready? We have just a couple of weeks to go for the new academic year. This has been long in coming. All the preparation leads to that moment. Are we ready?
Well, thanks very much, and good evening to your cherished viewers. I think we are ready. First and foremost, as NACA, what we have done is that we have developed the curriculum, and as far back as April 2019, we handed over the curriculum to Ghana Education Service for implementation. From all the stakeholder engagement and conversations that have happened, I am quite certain that we are ready for implementation. And at least Ghana Education Service has demonstrated, the capacity to get the curriculum implemented in September, looking at the sequence of events that have occurred, from training teachers at the national level, from simulation to national training for master trainers in Kofrodi on 2 occasions, up to the regional training, and then recently the school-based or cluster-based training. I think that they are prepared to get the curriculum, implemented in September.
Okay, Mr. Kabono, are you ready?
Well, teachers are versatile. Teachers have been trained. They are professionals. They've gone to universities to be trained as professionals. They've gone to colleges of education to be trained as professionals. And the level of knowledge that we have acquired and the competencies that we have, this is not the first time a new curricula has been introduced in this country or elsewhere in the world. So our versatility and our ability is more than enough to be able to handle any new curriculum that is thrown this. All the things that have been discussed at the training workshops are not new to the teachers.
Are you sure?
Absolutely. They are not new to the teachers. Maybe the packaging may be different. You understand? The organization of it is different. For example, Evans, the teaching style and methods that I will apply when I go to a school at East Legon will be absolutely different when I go to a school like, let's say, in Kaswa. Because the social background of the children, the knowledge background of the children differ. So I will have to employ strategies to be able to impact knowledge and information. We don't have any hard and fast rule as to how you manage a classroom situation. So the versatility of the teacher, the knowledge, the competence of the teacher will have to come at play. And let's again be cautious. Some of these concepts that you hear, people say, oh, you are no longer a teacher, but you are a facilitator. These are concepts that some of us have handled at international levels. Argument of educational ideologies, concepts, and so on and so forth. Where somebody says that in today's day and age, you don't need a teacher, but you need a facilitator. That is still very debatable. Very, very debatable. So let us be very careful not to come to conclusions to think that we have any hard and fast rule of imparting knowledge for the child to imbibe that knowledge to be able to move forward in life. There is no hard and fast rule. But I think that the curriculum is a guide. It's a grand principle. It's a guide. You understand? The confines within which we impart knowledge in this country. So that is how I see it. And teachers are properly trained in the colleges of education and the universities.
But not trained in this way of teaching.
Well, how do you know that?
This particular way of teaching is different. Because from what I read of the curriculum,
a 1 week training is not enough if the teacher does not have the foundation background to be able to impart the knowledge. Then 1 week is not enough. The teacher does have the background.
And I'm sure most viewers will have a lot of questions about what you said, because a typical Ghanaian teacher will not teach you. He's a dictator in the classroom.
No, that is not true.
Not somebody who is there as a partner in the learning process.
Yes, but you want to bring me a child from.
This is modernizing. This particular curriculum is modernizing.
Please.
It's bringing us up to speed with what the international standards are.
Let us be cautious with the avant-garde of it. The fact of the matter is that the man at the center of the classroom is still the teacher. The teacher is going to... You don't tell me that I should go and partner a class 1 child in learning. Is that what you're telling me? A class 1 child that has been brought to me to a very large extent, tabula rasa, and say we should partner. Do you know what we'll be doing to those children when we say we should partner? So you should bring knowledge and I also bring knowledge. Is that what you are saying? Is that practical? Are you sure what you are saying?
but that is, I guess, oversimplifying it.
Yes, you see, yeah, no.
Right?
You see, I know where these concepts. I know where these concepts are coming from. At Education International level, we have discussed these concepts. We have debated them.
Yeah,
you
and it's
understand?
settled. It's a settled debate.
Who told you that?
It's settled.
It is not.
I mean,
Ghana has decided.
The Cambridge and this
no. A certain concept has now prevailed in Ghana.
Yeah.
By the fact that we have people who believe in that approach.
Okay.
Are you getting it? So we are implementing it. It is not bad.
So that is new.
But
most of your teachers will not be used to this way of teaching.
And then you tell me that 1 week training has not made them used to this way of teaching.
But this is a continuous process. And I'm not sure that Dr. Amma has designed a 1 week to be
after two months. After 2 months, you and I will visit certain classrooms and then you assess the partnership.
Dr. Amma, this begs the question. What is it that we are going to introduce to our kids and our teachers when school reopens in September?
Oh, thanks very much. I'm not here to contest Angel's, theoretical perspective, but I think that it's also important that we begin to understand the contemporary concept around teaching and learning. He used very key words that clearly identifies where he stands, and he thinks that learning is all by slapping knowledge on the person and person behaving a certain way. So he says that young child is a tabula rasa. Somebody
by the way, tabula rasa means blank slate.
Yes.
To very large, to a large extent.
That is the 1950s and 40s model of human learning.
In fact, a psychological theory.
It's called behaviorism.
Yes.
The Thorndikes and B.F. Skinners and co who brought these, we have understanding of the changes that have come. And so I don't begrudge him for holding that. But if you hold such view, it has implication on the way you teach even in the classroom. Because you think that learning is by drill and practice and by repetitive action. That's how behaviorists behave. And therefore, do not allow the child to engage in negotiation of meaning of the learning environment. The child who is born, and that's why I'll give you an example. In the advanced world, even pregnant women begin to read.
I did that for my unborn child.
Exactly. When the child, as you read, they begin to develop even interest in reading, and there are a lot of empirical evidence.
My son is an example.
So it does not mean that any child, is a tabula rasa. As I said, these have been, we've held on.
No, the science backs the point.
And you know that knowledge is evolving.
Yeah.
Knowledge is subject to perpetual revision. And so as and when new evidence are made available, we keep on revising. So now the understanding is that knowledge is constructed. Your personal experience has impact on the way you conceive and understand issues. And so wherever a child is coming from, the child's interactions with the environment has a particular has an important role to play with the learning engagement that the teachers themselves engage this case in. And so it is not a situation where the teacher is the all-knowing and knowledgeable and the child is empty and the teachers come and talk. And that's where, when you have such understanding of learning, the effect is that the teacher stands there perceiving that the child knows nothing and keep on talking and talking and talking. Do you understand? Yes, sir. With very little chance for this child to begin to make meaning and also relate what they have said to their prior knowledge and context. And so in the contemporary understanding of learning, and if we say there's been debate, I know that in recent times, the idea of constructive knowledge, that nobody has epitome of wisdom, and that knowledge is based on the and people's prior experience has found itself in the extant literature wherever you find yourself.
That's the point I'm making. That it's really settled.
And so it's a
not.
And therefore,
it is not.
And therefore, constructive and social construct. In fact, I can go into Ernst van Glasserfeld's views of how we negotiate meaning by our social interactions, and we can go to Piaget's cognitive side, cognitive constructivism and the rest. These are theoretical discussions that has implications in the classroom. One thing about education is that every single action of the teacher is founded on theory, either in sociology, in psychology, or in anthropology, because we do not have theories on our own, but based on other social sciences. And so in this particular curriculum, the idea is that you want children who can be critical thinkers, and children who are problem solvers,
who are allowed to challenge their teachers,
who are exactly the traditional classroom. You dare not express an opinion that is contrary to what the teacher is saying. It will sometimes amount to trying to challenge the teacher. I had a chance to teach in this country. I've had a chance to teach in the different contexts in the British classroom, and making comparison. It's wonderful to allow children to engage in learning conversations among themselves and then between the teachers. We tend to learn a lot. And so it is this understanding and thinking that underpins the new curriculum. If you have conversation with the teachers, they will come to understand that the philosophy behind the principles underpinning this new curriculum is completely different from the principles underpinning an objectivist-based curriculum. I think
which is what we've been used to.
Which is what we've been used to, and therefore,
Angela,
and I'm sure. No, I mean this is a discussion that we can have. No, we can't end. I'm sure that where it's going to come from. But the most important thing people must understand is that knowledge is evolving. In some time past, we learned that there are 9 planets. Yes, there are 9 planets.
Now we know they are 5.
Now they are more than that.
No.
At some point, we said that the Earth was sphere. Initially, it was circle. It was sphere, and now they say it is conical. Knowledge is evolving.
Now, bullet for me the key differences of this particular curriculum. Parents are watching and they want to understand. Just bullet. And before I come to Angel, what are the key differences that parents would notice about this curriculum? Before we even go to the specifics of mathematics and science, but general principle, what are they?
Point 1. In an objective-based curriculum, the idea is that the teacher sets an objective that the teacher wants to achieve. In the standard-based curriculum, there are standards that the child should achieve.
Okay.
In the standard-based curriculum, we have clearly outlined and highlighted what specific competencies the child should know, understand, and be able to do. So it's based on competencies. And therefore, at the end of a particular learning period, let's say grade level, if the understanding is that the child should be able to count from 1 to 20 at primary 1, example, count in ones, backward or skip count in backwards. So 1, maybe is counting 2s, skip counting. So let's say 20, 18, 40. If that is the standard, when you find any child at that level, you can be able to find out if the child can demonstrate that. If that child cannot demonstrate, then you know there's a problem. And therefore, so we are dealing with standards. The second point is that once you are dealing with standards, it makes it easier for us to collect data, to be able to see how the children are doing, and that we do not wait until they get to junior secondary school 3, where there has been a huge learning gap, and expect them to write an examination where there is damage, there's complete damage, and it's quite difficult to address.
To rectify.
In this particular one, we, as part of the curriculum reform, we are finalizing an assessment framework. And so the understanding is that at primary school, primary 2, primary 4, primary 6, junior high school 2, they will write an examination We call it National Assessment Test. The purpose of it is not to use as a means of progressing the child to the next level. It is a diagnostic tool and a means of remediating. So let's say that at primary 2, remember that primary 2 is one phase of the school system. That's lower primary. Before you go to upper primary, there are some specific competencies that child should be able to do. And we want to test that. And so at primary 2, when you write that test, the result that we get, you have the whole of primary 3, which we call the compensatory year, to do remediation. So the teacher has an obligation to work, with the child to be able to, meet these competencies, and so that there is no learning gap between primary 4 and primary 3 because there was a challenge there. So we have enough data that this data can be aggregated at even school level. From class level, aggregate the data to school level. So at the school level, need help, we can tell which school. And then even at the district, we can do that. For government, we provide data for government to even do resource allocation.
I want to bring in Angel.
Evans, you tell me that you negotiate with your 6-year-old child which school he wants to go and which teacher to teach them. You are a very interesting Caucasian black man in Ghana. You see, education is a function of the society one finds himself. And education is a byproduct of the larger society. The way we reorient ourselves and our relationship with our kids in Ghana is absolutely different from the way an American or a Caucasian in England does relate him or herself with their child. When I listened to Dr. Ama, I was looking at him to see whether he's actually a Ghanaian and to find out whether he's actually from this culture, because he talked to me and I look at him as a white man dealing with his child and negotiating with the child what the child wants or does not want. In my house, I don't reorient my child like that, and I don't relate with my child in that manner. Are you getting me? At the end of the day, we will want to see the results in their society in Europe and America, the outcome of their children with relation to ours, and see who is doing better or who is not doing better. At least we are not taking the guns to our classrooms and shooting our teachers and our kids in those classrooms because they have over-liberalized their society. The children who have so much rights, so much freedom. You cannot even search the child when the child is coming to school. I have observed schools in Virginia, and I tell you honestly, the situation we have here is far better than they have there. Now, coming to this whole thing about curriculum, there is no single approach. There is no single style of teaching. It is not as if before now, the Ghanaian teacher does not engage the child. It is not true.
Sure?
Yeah, it is not true.
Many parents would disagree with you.
It is not true. It is not true that you go to a class and the teacher is a dictator and that the child does not contribute in class and that the child is not asked, what do you know? What is your view on this before the teacher comes to give the child a set of facts? That is not absolutely true. The concept is that the teacher comes and the child...
largely true.
Largely to how? So you want to tell me...
Before being to school in Ghana, remember?
Well, I don't know which school you went to.
That's my experience.
I have been a teacher for the past 30 years.
Yes.
And I'm telling you that there is a high level of engagement between teachers and students.
Really?
Oh, yes.
That's not my experience.
So you mean that in your Saito, the teacher comes and he's the all-knowing,
yes,
and then you are dumb?
How dare you question the teacher?
No. If you don't understand issues, you raise and tell the teacher that, say, I do not understand. The teacher explains to you.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Why not?
But that's not my experience.
Oh, then I don't know who taught you. I don't know who taught you. But I'm saying that it is not that true that the teacher is a dictator, the children are in a state of fear, and that the teacher speaks and the child does not speak. What are you talking about here? What type of Ghanaian teacher are you describing?
But that's the Ghanaian teachers I've come to know.
No, but you see, we have this. We have this. Somebody recently described teachers as demon. We have this over-demonization of the Ghanaian teacher to create a sense.
There are some very good ones.
The over-demonization of the Ghanaian teacher to create a sense of incapability, inability, incompetence. Then now we come in with the all-knowing good policy, and then we come and educate the teacher. That is absolutely unacceptable. If you are coming up with a new policy, come up with a new policy. Let's see what the policy functions are. But the truth of the matter is that the teacher is the lead man in the school. You need to have that lead personality for the students to see you as somebody that they can respect, they can identify as the lead man, the manager of the class. The teacher should have a set of knowledge above that of the children. What are you talking about negotiating with class 1 children in school? What kind of Caucasian concepts are these that people are trying to implement and come and negotiate that today do you want class test? No, sir, we are not in the mood for class test.
No, but that's not the kind of negotiation.
Well, what kind of, tell me, because for me,
that's not the kind of negotiation.
Tell me.
It's a learning negotiation.
So you want to tell, so that learning negotiation, if 1 + 1 is 2, and I come and tell you 1 + 1 is 2, and then you, a class 1 child, do have another understanding of 1 + 1 is 2. Then you can say, no, sir, 1 + 1 is not 2, but 1 + 1 is 3. Then the two of us negotiate or debate as to why 1 + 1 is not 3 but 2.
But that's what we are talking about. This is why I'll say you didn't want 1 + 1 is 2. If the child says 1 + 1 is 3, I will probably want to understand why.
Yes, but that is done. But that is done.
And then I'll take that as a teaching opportunity to explain why 1 + 1 is 2 and why sometimes in human life there are actually situations where
the universities we went to set the education was useless because we didn't learn all these things. These are things that we do.
No, but
you, Dr. Amma, you were a lecturer at University of Education, Winneba. Are you telling me that you didn't teach your students?
I'm saying that a typical Ghanaian teacher say 1 + 1 is 2. That's it. That's not explaining to you why 1 + 1 is 2.
No.
Absolutely yes.
I do not accept that.
Absolutely yes.
That is
will not go on to take their time and say 1 + 1. You can have a whole lecture 1 + 1 is 2. A teacher will just say 1 + 1 is 2 and move. When a kid is scratching his head, it's a principle. The principle behind 1 + 1 is 2 is what a kid doesn't understand. It's why I struggled in mathematics because I then learned later that apparently if you get the principles, you can solve all mathematical equations.
Evans.
But the teacher is just giving you 1 + 1 is 2 without teaching you the real fundamental principle that leads to that outcome.
No. Then I understand the type of approach that managers of education are taking in this country because they all have the same type of impression about the Ghanaian teacher. Therefore, the Ghanaian teacher ought to be a stone that should be broken. Because when we all think like this, then I'm beginning to understand why people are approaching policies the way they are approaching policies. Are you getting me? But I'm telling you that teachers explain. Yes, some students may not understand. Some students may need more explanation. Some students may need more interaction. But when, you see, even the curriculum that they've introduced, what resource materials are even, what type of school environment do we have to ensure that the type of curriculum they've introduced even works?
Okay.
Are you getting it? Because what you are talking about, that you should spend time with the teacher, the student, and you can have a whole day explanation of 1 + 1 is 2.
Taking them out of the classroom,
yes,
and letting them experience 1 + 1 is 2 in a natural environment. I think this is part of what you're
it's a natural environment, but you've forgotten. You have also forgotten that the class is about 50 to 60 students to that one teacher. You are forgetting about that, and that we've not even as curriculum people told us that the right classroom size that we should manage.
That's why when I began, I asked about whether are you ready? And he said you are ready.
Me?
Yes.
You asked him.
And he said he's ready. I asked him whether you're ready to.
Ask Dr. Amma, what is the ideal classroom size for his curriculum principles to work?
Good question. Dr. Amma, I'm going to ask you that question, but I want you to hold on for a second because I've just been joined by Kofi Asare. He's been on Skype for a while.
80 students in a class, and you say I should interact.
I'll bring Kofi Asare. Doc, please make notes. I'll come to you on the questions designed. Very valid question. Kofi, thank you for joining us here on PM Express. Mr. Asare.
Yeah, good evening and good evening to your viewers.
And Kofi is the chairman of the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition. And you do a lot of monitoring, you work with the teachers and education authorities, etc. What's your own take on this conversation? Next 2 weeks, our children are going to be introduced to a new curriculum. Are we ready?
I think we must spend time discussing the operational framework, the roadmap for rolling the curriculum out. Look at the resource availability, look at the accountability systems, the supervisory mechanisms different from what we are used to, which is not working, or the monitoring and evaluation systems different from what we've been used to, which hasn't been working. And then basically the carrot and sticks. What are the reward mechanism and also the punitive measures for teachers who are not able to reach the outcome based or so-called standards that you are supposed to meet. And then also look at the environment. To what extent is the environment that we are working with in respect of the people-teacher ratio? To what extent does it facilitate or promote the use of this curriculum? These are the critical questions we should be asking, and not what someone will call perfume English. As for every curriculum, when it's being introduced, government will always, they will always polish it nice, like any other policy. But the fact is that, as Angel said, there are so many ways of teaching, yes, and every curriculum is good. No curriculum is bad. Okay, a good curriculum, as the coalition said in its statement of about a month ago, is as good as its implementation arrangements. We raised the issue with French. It's a good idea that we are not doing French from upper primary instead of junior high school 1. But the question we asked was that, are we going to continue the same system where only about 30% of our schools are doing French because of the lack of French teachers? So in that case, we deepen the exclusion by only more or less teaching French in highly urban and then peri-urban schools to the detriment of the rural people, or we are introducing French in class 4 and at the same time ensuring that we have adequate number of French teachers. What has changed? These are the questions we asked. We asked the question of accountability. So what happens if a teacher is not able to meet the targets per the standardized outcomes? And then we raised the issue about monitoring, evaluation, supervision. What is happening differently to circuit supervisors and the way and the quality of supervision they offer to schools and head teachers? What different thing will happen if operational frameworks do not work? Nothing will happen. Nothing different will happen. If class sizes will remain between 50 and 60 in most rural schools, definitely you won't expect a teacher to adapt learner-based or participatory teaching methods to teach. As for learner-based participatory teaching methods to teach, the training colleges or college of education have always taught teachers about how to use those methods. It is mostly because of the way the conditions in the classroom sometimes limit the teachers in adapting them, because we have higher class sizes. And also, laxity in supervising teaching methods, laxity on the part of certain supervisors in supervising teaching methods and feeding back to the education office and then acting on their reports to remedy the situation is also one of the reasons why teachers, not all teachers, but most teachers do not or may not have applied participatory methods in teaching in the past or in the present. But what system different from what we are used to, which has not been working, have we put in place to ensure that these critical building blocks are in place?
Yeah.
That for me is the issue you are interrogating.
Mr. Sari, I'll come back to you to tell me, based on your own monitoring of this, the way this has been rolled out, whether these questions you're asking, whether we are ready to make this work. And Dr.
I asked the question here.
Yes, I'm coming.
The question I asked
yes,
is
I'm coming to that.
Curriculum.
Yes.
You have implementing new curriculum.
Yeah.
The question is that what class size is good?
It's the same question that
effective
Mr. Sari is asking.
So there will be a participatory
address that for me.
Well, thanks very much.
So it comes back. I know you are not an implementer. I know you designed it.
Yeah,
so let's ask the question. When you were designing it, did you factor in the concern it has? Class sizes, the environment, questions that Mr. Sari had just asked about, monitoring, what you do to teachers who don't meet. These are fundamental questions. Was that factored into the design?
Obviously, yes. Otherwise, it means that you are developing a policy document that will not reflect reality and that will not be.
I get a sense from Angel and that your curriculum doesn't reflect the reality.
No, I don't think so.
So what class size are we dealing with here?
Allow him. Mr. Sari, I'll come to you shortly. I just want to hear Dr. Ama.
I think it's important that your viewers get the context within which this conversation
is going
on.
Let's do that.
Curriculum is developed taking account of several issues. You cannot develop a curriculum when you are not looking at the local context and how it will be implemented. So we have looked at that. The implementation comes with certain guidelines. For example, you want to engage in learner-based approach. You want to engage in activity-based learning. That will not be supportive if you have a very large class.
True.
All right.
So what is the ideal size for your curriculum?
The ideal size for implementation or ideal class size across the world that
no. As in what is in our curriculum?
This curriculum is benchmarked to curriculum that is comparable to other countries.
So what is the number?
Ideal size, class size, is between 35 to 40.
That's what's wrong.
And that's what we're looking at.
Okay.
Between 35 to 40 for a class. I taught in British classroom.
No.
In that classroom, I have 35 students. I have 40 students. So I'm saying that.
And Jacob, you disagree? I'll come to you. I'll come to you.
I think the conversation here. It's not just one person
exactly.
speaking.
I'll come to you. But
we've come here to try to explain matters to people.
No problem.
It's not engaging.
Let's go on. Let's go on. So 30 to 40. You said.
So yes, I mean, if you have a class size of between 35 to 40,
okay,
you can manage.
Okay.
But if you even have class size of 20, that's fine. If you have class size of 15, because the lower the class size, the better it is for us, you know. Okay. So I would wish that we have a lower class size, but if you have a class size of between 35 to 40, that's fine. 45, 50, 60, 70 is problematic. Okay. All right. So once we have handed over this curriculum, and there are some expectations that has to go with them. These are aspirational. The curriculum is developed not for 1 month or not for a year. They are aspirational. And therefore, there are certain activities that the policy implementers will have to, have to undertake to be able to ensure that this curriculum is implemented in the manner that we have espoused. Now, let me make this important point. I will not be part of a system that is not working. I have sat here on this table, previously, advocating for change in the way, the system is operating. I have sat and argued strongly that certain things must be changed. Now, if I have opportunity to do that, I will not, continue to allow the status quo to remain. What we are doing is that, in order to ensure that the rhetoric of the policy, does not
matches the reality.
Exactly, and therefore reduce that gap. What we have embedded in the implementation process for us, because we are going to do the monitoring, to be able to provide evidence to Ghana Education Service and say, these are the areas that we have identified. Can you, troubleshoot? And so what we have brought into this implementation process, or the monitoring and evaluation process, is what we call fidelity of implementation. We have trained the teachers, or the teachers have been trained. There are clear activities in the policy document, the curriculum, the teacher resource guide, the training guides that we have developed and teachers have been trained. To what extent are teachers, implementing the curriculum in the manner that we have espoused? And that is something that we've built in that. That's what we call the FOI. In that, so in September, we are collecting the first set of data, at NACA. And then continuously, as we speak now, finalizing our FOI tool to be able to ensure that this curriculum is implemented with, in the manner that we have espoused. In addition, the National Inspectorate Board, which is responsible for, school accountability, will also be doing their work. And I am not here to speak for NIB, but I know that between Ghana Education Service, NACA, NTC, all of us used to have some, monitoring or observation tools. All of them brought together into what we call harmonized observation tool that NIB will be using, and to be able to check quality of teaching and learning in their schools. So even though it's a curriculum matter, there's several interactions, several actors in there to make this curriculum, implementable.
I need to go and take a quick break. When I return, I'll take your thoughts, Mr. Kabono. Yeah, I'll take your thought, Mr. Sari, as well, on the explanations we've just had. But I'll also ask you, Dr. Ama, do you accept, though, that as it is today, this curriculum, he said it's aspirational, so it's an admission that it doesn't actually meet the reality on the ground now, but you hope that eventually
I'll explain that.
You'll get that. I'll come to that.
Yeah.
We'll take a shot. We're going to return. We'll address these matters. So live on PM Express, this is a conversation that as a parent you need to pay attention to. I'm just beginning to learn a lot as this. The long time ago I swore that I'll not send my child to GS because of what I suffered. But if the curriculum is going to be implemented the way they intend to, maybe I'll send my child back.
But then you have already finished.
Now, I want to come back to my guest, but I want to go to Mr. Sari first. Mr. Sari, you raised some of the fundamental questions which Dr. Ama attempted to address. I don't know if the answers he gave addresses the fundamental questions you think are critical to successful implementation of this.
So I think that the coalition has been forthright on the issue of the content of the curriculum. There is no question that the curriculum's content is standard. It's up to international standards. So there's nothing wrong so far as the coalition is concerned with the content of the curriculum. But the issues surrounding the curriculum have to do with the implementation arrangements, which Dr. Prince Ama cannot speak to, because his work is not to implement the curriculum, his work is to develop the curriculum.
But what you know and have observed as a coalition, just a second, Mr. Sorry. But what you know and have observed, are the implementations arrangements adequate and in place for a successful implementation?
No, I am not aware. If Prince says that they are ready, the JNES has not convinced us that we have French teachers in all schools, in about 15,000 basic schools in Ghana, to teach French. We are going to continue a system where we are going to teach French only in urban areas and peri-urban areas. We are going to deepen the exclusion that has existed for the past 30 years. And so until I see French teachers in every basic school, no one can speak English to me and tell me that we are ready. You can't be ready if you are ready in the context of perpetuating the already existing divide, which is the rural-urban divide in provision of quality basic education. Secondly, you go to the rural areas especially, and the circuit supervisor is responsible for monitoring up to 15 schools. And the circuit supervisor is largely not mobile. Even where they have motorbikes, fuel is an issue. We haven't resolved the issues of mobility of supervisors and the efficiency of supervision undertaken by the circuit supervisors, and also the quality of the supervision. All these are issues related to JNES. And so we would like to have an engagement with the JNES on what has been done differently. As of now, what is on the ground assures no accountability. It assures no value for money. There is no effective monitoring. And what will change this current arrangement will not be a curriculum. It will be a well-implemented curriculum. And finally, I'm asking again, how will teachers be held accountable if they do not meet the standards that Dr. Prince Ama is espousing?
Okay.
How would they be held accountable?
Good question. Hold on for me. I'll come to you, Dr. Ama, shortly, but Angel, you have a lot of questions also to ask.
Absolutely. Now we have teaching standards. As a nation, or as managers of education, do we have the established required standard for a place to be called a school? So that we know that this place that we are calling a school meets the required standards. So that when you fall below the required standard, we close you down. If you fall within the required standard, we maintain you. Then when we have that required environment that we can call a place a school, then you can implement your curriculum and ensure that you get results out of the curriculum. When you have teacher A and B in different environments, where one environment is likely endowed and the other environment is deficient in meeting the standards, how then will you be able to judge me and say that I have not applied the curriculum the way you want me to apply it? That is why, one, we need to have the established standard class size based on knowledge and research. Class size is not something that a nation decides to say.
But he's mentioned what the standard is for this curriculum.
Yeah, I'm saying that I don't have a problem, because if in Ghana we have 35 in a class, teachers will jump and shout, hooray.
I say we don't have that.
It may be in some few schools, but let me tell you, in Accra here, tomorrow I'll come and drive you around and you see things for yourself. So when you have that large class size, you are going to have difficulty with interactive teaching and interactive learning. Are you getting it? Because you cannot even go through the pews to be able to monitor and engage the students. And then not only classroom, even the school environment, what resources are available For example, do we even have the ICT equipment to be able to have virtual learning in the school?
We don't.
We don't. If we even
But government says they're investing. Parliament has passed.
If government invests in it, government will also have to invest in data availability and to ensure the internet, and to ensure that when I'm in the school, the teacher and the student can access internet to teach and to learn.
So Mr. Kamara, ask the question again before I come to him. Are we ready?
Well, I think we have challenges.
Okay. But are we ready? Are we ready?
You see, you want to ask me whether I'll go to heaven or hell. So let me do some explanation. Little explanation, please. We can have a beautifully written curriculum like we have. But when the infrastructure, the facilities, the environment is not adequately available,
which is the case now.
All that we'll be doing is fanfare.
Thank you. Dr. Amma, you have the final word. You have a lot to say. Quickly.
Yes, I just want to just make the point that this curriculum is aspirational. As a country...
Is an admission that now we don't have what it takes to
No, not at all. Let me make this point. Learning, every day we do learn. By our interaction, we learn and get information from people, and we build more knowledge. This can be capricious or whimsical. Anyhow, curriculum is the only intentional planned way of developing people. So we ask ourselves in the next 10 years, what kind of people we need. Then we develop a curriculum with a specific set of activities that will ensure that we get that. That's why I told you that it's aspirational. So when we ask ourselves the next 20 years, Ghana beyond aid, we want to be self-reliant. What kind of Ghanaian do we need? And this is what
what you're saying is that you hope that as you implement the next 10 years,
as we implement in the next 10 years,
the resources that you need will come along.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
Okay.
So there are systems in place. He asks very important questions. Kofi asks very important questions. And I think that if we understand from system approach, then we'll begin to see that it is not only the curriculum, but there are other things that need to go with it. And Kofi has mentioned that. The National Inspectorate Board, which is soon to be National Inspectorate Authority, will have the mandate to not only even inspect schools and see the quality and categorize schools like outstanding as we see.
Do you have the standards defining what the school is?
Yes, I'm saying that as it happens in the UK like Ofsted, NIB is going to play that role, and they've already started in developing tools for that. So it's going to get to a point where they will even begin to close down schools. Okay. That is the regime that we're operating now. A regime founded on strong accountability. If you read the Education Strategic Plan, the foremost policy document guiding the development of the curriculum and every aspect of the education sector, accountability is the key driver for the change we want.
Okay, fantastic point. This is what we're going to do. We're going to end here. We're going to return to this conversation because I think that as far more, this is very useful for parents. When is school reopening? When is school reopening? And the Kabano, you should know this because you're a teacher. When is school reopening?
I think it should be the second week or so
of September. We're going to return to this conversation.
That is the basic schools.
Basic schools. But basic schools. What about the SSS?
Controversial.
Well, we don't know yet when it's reopening.
Controversial.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes. But what I know for sure, Mr. Asari as well, we're going to return to this conversation. I want to have you all gentlemen back here. And I'm going to bring your parents as well, because I think they need this. I need this as a parent. And so we're going to do this again because I know you have many questions to ask.
In fact, my phone is inundated with questions.
For him. So keep them. We'll return. He'll return. This time we'll add the GS director to it. So that we can completely exhaust.
As a matter, most of the questions are actually supposed to be directed
to the GS.
No, it depends on the
so thank you, gentlemen, for now. Dr. Amma and Dr. Kabone, Mr. Asari, for that. We're going to return to this just when school reopens so we can exhaust this for all the parents who are interested. Stay with us for that conversation. My name is Evans Mensah. Enjoy the rest of your evening.